And welcome back to the wrap up edition of Top Dog Talk podcast. We are going to be talking about the game that we just saw, Georgia, Mississippi State, possibly one of the most complete games they've played all year long. But we wanted to start the show by just briefly mentioning the passing of two legends in the sports world today, and Paul Tagliabue, who was the commissioner of the NFL for quite a while, and then also former Atlanta Hawks coach and my gosh, long resume. He did a lot of other things, but Lenny Wilkens, they both passed away today. So thoughts, condolences to their family. What great lives they lived. My co-host here, Kobe Pierce. Man, we got a lot to talk about today. I just, with the passing of Paul Tagliabue, kind of got me thinking a little bit, and I was going to throw this one out to you and see what is the first commissioner of any sport that you could remember, like the first one you were aware of? Like, yeah, I mean, because every sport has a commissioner, but they were always kind of in the background. So, who was the first commissioner in your lifetime that you were aware of?
See, the problem is I feel like commissioners just have such a long lifespan now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, Roger Goodell definitely is like the commissioner that I like that comes to my brain immediately, which is terrible because, like, obviously, there have been so many good um, commissioners for so long. But I would say, like, especially when you're younger in a sport, right? Like, as you're growing up, like, you just don't care as much. You don't keep up with it as much. You don't you know, think about some of these things that the commissioners are in charge of. Um, you know, Rob Manfred, commissioner of baseball right now, I would have to think pretty hard. Like I should know who the commissioner before him in baseball was, but I just probably couldn't pull that out. Obviously for you, you're going to have a lot different answer. I think for me, when the NFL commission finally changes, when Rob Manfred finally changes, like when those guys cycle out a cycle or two, obviously then like I'll remember. But I mean, tell me who was the commissioner in the NFL before Roger Goodell,
Um,
and were they the commissioner long? Like, did they even do anything like
so it was no,
major?
it was Paul Tagliabue, the one who just passed away today. That was the
That's what
commissioner.
I'm saying. Like that.
Yeah,
So there's only been two in how many
Pete Rozelle
years?
was before him. Um, but like for me, David Stern was the first commissioner that I knew who that was because of Michael Jordan and the expansion of the NBA. Like the things that he did for the NBA will never be duplicated. I mean, he transitioned it from a league where their games were on tape delay to must watch TV. I mean, it's on every night on different channels. In just the amount of games that you watch now. That's something that Harrison and I were talking about is that I think this younger generation will have no, I mean, because sports are such a major part of our life and such a major part of the television product where basically sports drives television. I mean, I don't think that's an exaggeration. But back in the 80s and early 90s, that was not a thing. I mean, sports were not the driving backbone to television. But anyway, that was just kind of a little sidetrack. Did want to kind of give a second to them. But also, let's give a lot of time to this Georgia Bulldogs football team that played a really, really good football game on Saturday. I understand who they played, Mississippi State, and I know you're going to look at their record and you're going to think, well, this is what they were supposed to do. And by all means, yeah, they were supposed to. But this has been a team that is on the come. They've been getting better, and they've been playing teams really, really tough. And Kirby has mentioned all week long and even after the game how difficult it is to prepare for this offense. And I guess we'll start with the defensive side of the ball, Kobe, if you don't mind, and just kind of talk about our ability, Georgia's ability to really slow this thing down and contain it from, I mean, you're never going to stop it completely, but really, really contain it. What were your takeaways defensively on how they were able to attack this Mississippi State team?
Yeah, I think they were aggressive, right? And I think that's something that has been lacking from time to time. Um, early on in the year, like we got after the quarterback, got him off the spot, tried to make him make quick decisions in a quick offense, and didn't really let him just sit back there and let routes develop and pick us apart little by little. They had a good first drive, right? They're a good team. They're at home. It's a good script. we affected the quarterback a time or two. I mean, we had an opportunity to get off the field after some big sacks, but they made the most of a couple plays, a couple passes, go their way. They go down and score that touchdown. And then really the adjustments after that were, hey, we're gonna try to take away those quick, easy throws. We're gonna try to make things develop downfield, and we're gonna hold on and think that we can tackle well in space and stop the run. And we really did. I mean, we stopped the run really well, in my opinion. We limited their ability to run the ball. We got them behind the sticks a lot of times where they were in 3rd and long. And then on very obvious passing downs, I thought we played really well, played some tight coverage at times. You made them uncomfortable in a game that Mississippi State really would have liked to have gotten into just a shootout style game. You kept them from scoring quick and effectively and kind of made it this ground and pound. We're going to run the ball and chew up some clock, and you're going to have to try to do the same. And they just weren't successful. And that's on Kirby, and that's on Schumann. That's on everybody with this defensive game plan that heard all week, man, y'all could be in a dogfight. Man, this could be a trap game. Harrison asked twice last week, is this a trap game? Are we looking ahead to Texas? I would say what you saw out on the field shows no. Kirby respects Jeff Lebby. He respects that team in Starkville, and they got it. They got the old school, like we used to talk about, Dan, and joke of you sleepwalk through games here and there, like the Kentucky game that you win like 13-12. Is it because maybe we weren't the most prepared? Maybe we weren't the most focused? Yeah, a little bit. And then every once in a while you wake up and it's just like this random ass whooping that you're like, you don't see coming. And it's because somebody had the full attention of the coaching staff, the full attention of these players. And I feel like that's kind of what happened in Starkville, right? Is like you played Florida and you kind of hung around with Florida, whatever. And then you went over to Mississippi and it was like, oop, 41-21 with a couple of garbage time touchdowns for Mississippi State that it could have easily been, you could have hung 50 on them fellas on Saturday. It feels good. It feels like the team maybe is focusing at the right time in the season, which has always been a staple of a Kirby Smart team, right? They get better as the season goes on. You want to play them early in the season to have a chance. If you play them after week 8, typically they're hardened enough by the schedule. They're a tough team to beat.
I think you said a couple really good things there. One is complete attention. I believe this Georgia team was focused on this game. I think the way that Mississippi State has been playing people demanded that level of respect and that level of attention. That, again, they haven't been winning a lot of these games. They finally got their first SEC win in, I believe it was 2 seasons we talked about, right? Just this past game, the week past against Arkansas. But they've been playing really good teams, really tough, and making them really, really earn it. And I think something like that stands out to a team like, hey, we don't want to be the next group that they do this to. So I think that's a really good point you bring up. And then another one that you mentioned was just the amount of pressure or disruptive pressure that we're able to put on this offense. They never really looked extremely comfortable. Aside from that very first drive, and Kirby even addressed that in his press conference where he talked about they're fresh, they're ready, they've got a great script, they're at home, and they're going to play fast. And he goes, it's really difficult to stop that. He's like, you're really not going to stop that. So I'll concede that one. And Kirby used the word adjustments. He said we made some adjustments and really slowed them down. And I believe that to be true. I mean, if you watch the game from that first drive on until we started making some wholesale changes on defense, they really struggled to move the football. They had some success. They did have that one play where Anthony Evans on a double move beat I'm not really sure who the DB was off the top of my head, but they beat somebody, and what a smart move by just grab a hold of them. Because we've talked about that so many times where in the college game it's completely different than the NFL. It's a 15-yard penalty as opposed to giving up a 70 or 80-yard touchdown, because that was a touchdown. You and I both, I think, agree. If he doesn't hold him, that's a touchdown. And then all of a sudden the momentum changes again. And then Georgia was able to force a fumble right after that and get the ball back inside their 30 to go on a score. So I thought that was a real momentum shift early in the football game. other than the fumble inside the 3-yard line, Dylan Bell on the end around, try to cut it up into the teeth of the defense. And listen, I don't think it's a Dylan Bell issue. I think the defensive guy made a really good play, put a hat on a ball, which every defensive coordinator tells you to do, and knock the ball out. So sometimes you have to tip your cap to the other team and say you did something right. But defensively, I thought they played one of their better games. And Kirby also mentioned something in this press conference that this defense plays better as the game gets deep. He said, because I don't care how you look on, he's not so concerned about how you look on play 1. He wants to know what you look like on play 67, when everybody's starting to get tired. He said, and if you're the type of team that can withstand the hits that my defense is going to put on you to still be able to play at that level of play 67, then we're in for a dogfight. But, without saying it verbatim, he basically said that team can't play with us for 60 minutes. And I agree. And that was good to see. I thought a lot of defensive players played one of their better games. Quentin Johnson, I thought, played the best game that I can remember in recent memory. And I may be wrong. I'm sure Kirby would tell you he's done all these amazing things, but just as standout plays, you were kind of running off some of the stuff that he did. A pass deflection, half a sack, and then causing that fumble. That's a nice little game he had there. And Raylan Wilson is a player that I'm just growing to love. He plays so damn hard. And, maybe the stats don't bear it out every single week, but man, that guy is one of the best players on this defense. And of course, CJ Allen. I think we can come on here every week and just talk about something good CJ Allen did, because that guy's just such a great player. You got something to say? Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, I think the two of them are going to be really close to the most improved, dog awards for me. I mean, there were a pair of guys last year that played really well at times, but were very flashy. They were a flashy duo. They made really good plays as sophomores, but every once in a while they'd have a missed tackle, they'd have a mental error that you just kind of left your head scratching, kind of going, what are they doing back there? They seem a little lost, maybe a little confused. And that has paid dividends, in my opinion, for the two of them this season. I think that the rotation helps a lot. Like, they both seem to be very fresh because we rotate them off the field a good bit. But when they are on the field, I mean, they are hunting really well. I mean, we sent a couple cross-dog blitzes to affect the quarterback. CJ Allen's probably as good of a tackler as we have in open space at this point, and they both just are playing well, and like Kirby and Schumann, playing free. They know what is going on. They mentally understand what we're trying to do, and then they just go play, right? Like, they're not having to think like, oh, what do I have in this defense, or who do I have? It's just like, hey, let's just go cut it loose, do your assignment, make the tackles when they come to you. And both of them had a really good game. Quentin Johnson, we were talking about KJ Bolden had a really big game. He had 10 tackles in the game. Jonel Aguero, I think, second with 8. That's a lot of tackles for those two guys that are still younger fellas in the defense that are having big games when you need to have them. So, like Shayan, it just is impressive. You basically held this team they were 50% on third down. They were 173 yards through the air and 149 yards on the ground. And I would say a majority of that came in those last 2 touchdowns. I think they had a 75-yard drive with the backup quarterback in the third quarter that ended up in a touchdown. And I think they had like a 80-yard drive or something kind of late in the game in garbage time. So, I mean, he gave up 150 of those yards with the backups in, late in the game, which is great because those guys need something to learn on film too. That's going to give Kirby and company something to talk to those guys about for the next 2 or 3 weeks of, hey, when you're in, we're counting on you to play our defense properly. It was a great game defensively. It was a great tune-up game of like, hey, we've played some really, really hard games and we've played some hard offenses. Hey, we're now going to play this hard offense and have success playing it all game. So that kind of, I guess, kicks us over to the offense, right? Dan, tell us some good things.
Well,
tell us a couple good things about the offense today.
The last thing I was going to say about the defense real quick is
Okay.
that if you remember, there were times last year where we talked about our tackling where the first guy wasn't making the tackle and we were having, giving up extra yardage. I thought this defense has started to tackle really, really well in the open field. Offensively, Yes, let's move to my favorite side of the ball. I thought Gunner was in complete control of this offense. I don't think at any point did he look overwhelmed, confused, or anything like that. I think he's getting better as the season goes on. He's getting more and more confident. Some of those throws early in the season that he wasn't making that we were wanting him to make, I feel like he's more comfortable making them right now. He's fitting balls into tight windows, not just against man, but against zone as well. And I think we're starting to see more playmakers emerge. Zach Branch has just been money all year long, but the running game, the reemergence of the running game, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, Kobe, I'll let you talk about the running game first because I know as much as me, you love the running game.
Yeah, and I won't take that away from you. I'll do a brief overview on Gunner and then one little fun fact about the running game and let you have at it. So Gunner, total yards in the game, 295, 3 passing touchdowns. On the season, it puts him at 15 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns for 22 on the season. He's third still in QBR total, and he's eclipsed 2,000 passing yards on the year. He's at 2361 total yards and 22 touchdowns. And then as far as the rushing game goes, I like to see we had 9 different ball carriers touch the rock this weekend. So, and on that, we'll just say on Dylan Bell, man, these calls in these games, we talk about bad officiating. We were talking about some tight calls, Dan. I mean, you could have just as easily, if the umpire had called that down by contact and then the ball came out, I'm not sure that you could have reversed that call either in the replay. I mean, it was bang bang. I thought he was down. I thought it was a fumble. It just depended on what camera angle and when they stopped it. It was a close play. So unfortunate for Dylan Bell. Got to hold on the ball inside the 5. But good learning point for him. And luckily, like you're saying, forced the fumble right back, so it didn't cost us anything. But Dan, tell the people about the rushing attack of them Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday.
You know, one of the things that I've been really wanting to see for quite a while is the Todd Gurley runs, the Nick Chubb runs, the DeAndre Swift runs, where they break the long 50-plus yard runs, which used to be a staple of the Georgia offense. I mean, we would have a running back take a ball and go 70 yards like it was nothing. And that just kind of disappeared. And I don't think that's necessarily a Georgia issue. I just think that's the evolution of football and just the amount of speed that they have in the secondary because, I mean, all those guys are 4-4 guys now, and they can track you down. They can run you down. So I think those are very hard to get. But it was nice to see Nate Frazier had 2 really long runs. I don't remember exactly the yardage on the first one, but the touchdown run was 59 yards. And I can't remember the last time we had a 59-yard touchdown run or longer. Maybe it was DeAndre Swift. I don't know. I'm sure there was somebody more recent, but it just doesn't seem like it. And then also, like you said, the amount of guys carrying the football, the lead blocking that we've had, you know, you got to get a lot of credit to guys like Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky while he was in the game, Elias Williams, your wide receivers, active participants in the run game. I mean, there's so many times you see these diva wide receivers, and I'm not saying that Georgia has them, but I'm just saying the diva wide receivers who they kind of give this half-hearted effort on a block, and that guy ends up making the tackle. Well, to have those long runs, you can't have that. You have to have everybody active. And then also you have to have a talented running back with a little bit of top-end speed, and that's something that we were able to see out of Nate this past weekend, and I really, really enjoyed that. I think I got more excited about that than I have in quite a while. And this is from the same guy who used to wish that Georgia would throw the ball more. So I guess I kind of go back and forth on that. But I was really, really excited to see that. And on top of that, really happy for Nate because he had such a tumultuous start to the season, you know, dropping the ball on the ground. And Chauncey kind of came in and ate up a lot of the carries that he was getting. And Chauncey did his job, and he did a great job. And I think we both love him too as well. And I think the coach staff loves both those guys. I think they really like that running back room in general. But I was just really happy to see that. And, you know, that's such a huge part of what Georgia's identity has become this year is running the ball with success and really just making you try to stop it and then capitalizing in the passing game whenever you have to load up for the run. So I think that's a really good sign to see a healthy running game, a running attack going into the Texas game. So do you have any other takeaways from the running game?
Yeah, like you're saying, I think it's your 1-2 punch right now at running backs as good as it's been in the last, 2 or 3 seasons, roughly. I mean, there have been some really good. I think about when Georgia's running game is the best. It's when there's a 1-2 punch, right? Nick, Sony, Todd, Keith, um, you know, DeAndre Swift, Elijah Holyfield, Zamir, James Cook, Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards. Like, there's always two sides of that coin that seem to really get that kind of rolling. And that way, if somebody's having maybe a down day or an off day, it seems like the other person is who kind of steps into that role and takes over for that given Saturday. So, and I just love the balance of this team. Kirby and staff really put an emphasis on we're going to get back to running the ball. We're going to run the ball with some authority, with some violence, and we've seen that. I mean, you played this team, you scored 41 points, you put it 303 on the ground, but you still 264 yards through the air. I mean, you had over 500 total yards. You did it both ways. You had 2 touchdowns of plus 50 yards, one in the air and one on the ground. Like you're saying, that's just something that's an explosiveness that we haven't seen out of this offense, and it's something that is really nice as the season progresses. Like, it is nice to be able to score quickly if need be. It's nice to be explosive. It's nice to have that fear of, oh, we punted the ball back to them. As long as we don't give up a 12-play drive right here, we should be okay. It's nice that somebody goes, we have to be on our alert because they can throw 3 passes and be in the end zone, or run the ball 3 times and be in the end zone. It's just as nice. So, a career day for Nate Frazier. I mean, 181 yards on the ground. He looked the part. So couldn't have been more impressed by him at all. But it's fun. To me, it makes me feel really good going into the Texas week. And I wish Harrison was here because he loves to be worried about a game. But I would be interested to know how worried he is about this week.
Well, don't forget, he's a closet Texas fan anyway. Another takeaway from this offense, I like the fact that Gunner spreads the ball around, and you really can't just focus on one person. I mean, I guess if you were the defense, you're saying, hey, we got to really try to take away Zachariah Branch. And I think that would be a smart thing to try to do. But at the same time, we have some other guys that are starting to make plays for us. And what kind of really blew my mind is when they said that it was Oscar Delp's first touchdown of the season. That's hard to believe. Like, he's such a big part of this offense. You would have thought he had more, but then I forgot that it was Lawson Lucky that was catching all the touchdowns out of the tight end room. But Oscar Delp getting involved, Noah Thomas getting involved. You just Landon Humphreys. He feels comfortable enough to go to these guys in key moments of the football game. And it's not that he's just staring down the one wide receiver and that's all he's worried about. So, the evolution of this offense, I think Mike Bobo is really getting a grasp of what it is this team likes to do and what they're able to execute consistently. And I think the play calling has reflected that. They're starting to run a lot more of the things that they're comfortable with. A lot of those little trickeration stuff that we weren't having success with are those added unnecessary wrinkles that we were running earlier in the year have kind of disappeared, and we've kind of gotten down to a trimmed list of things that we're trying to do. But the things that we do call, we're executing very well. So I really like the evolution in this offense. I think, again, going back to Gunner, I think he's got a great grasp of what they're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish with these play calls. And I think you're starting to see just an elevated level of execution. And that's what you want as a football team is, if you're playing your best game in week 1, that's not good because you can't sustain that. I mean, it's inevitable that you're going to kind of come down a little bit. So it never was particularly great early in the year. Like, it was underwhelming at times, but it's elevating. It's getting better. It's the explosives are coming. The continuity is there. The offensive line is finally healthy, knock on wood. And then the depth of it is even more elevated because we had to play some of those guys early. They were forced into some action. So I really like the trajectory of this offense. And I think that it's putting us in a really good position to take on all comers, especially when the playoffs get here. And then, of course, the defense looks like it's starting to round into shape a little bit too. So, Kobe.
It's one of those great things, like you're saying. Nobody wants to win their Super Bowl week one. Florida
Right.
State, you won your Super Bowl week one. LSU, you won your Super Bowl week one. You beat Clemson at Clemson. Florida State, you beat Alabama. But you look at those teams and you look at, would you have rather been Alabama week one or would you rather be Florida State week one? Yeah, it was great. Florida State won. They're now 4-5, and Alabama is the number 4 team in the country. They're 8-1. They look like, they're going to play for an SEC championship game. They're going to play in the playoffs, and Florida State may be looking for a new head coach. So life kind of comes at you fast. It's always better to progress throughout the season than to just be ready to go week one, because they don't hand out any trophies after week one. As far as the offensive line, I think you hit a big nail on the head. They're healthy, knock on wood. They're getting healthier, and they're getting better, more cohesive as a unit. And that comes with reps, right? We played a lot we pulled a lot of guards this week. We ran a lot of power and ran it effectively. So it's an exciting time. And then shout out to special teams. They keep on keeping on. 2 field goals made, all the extra points. And, when we ask the Australian to punt the ball, he punts the ball well. And so, like you're saying, it was overall a great team game. And that's really all I got to say about it. I mean, I'm as pleased as I can be with the way the week went, the way the weekend went, and you didn't, anybody that I worried about kind of being injured. We've gotten good word on Lawson Lucky from his mom that he's going to be okay, that he's all right, which is great. Christian Miller goes down early, but he came back to the game and played some more. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll know a little bit more tomorrow. I'm guilty of not knowing if DeMello Jones played, but I don't think so.
I don't recall him playing.
I don't remember. I remember not thinking I did not see him play. So he was the only questionable person that wasn't deemed out, but I don't believe he played. So be interesting to see if we get him back for Texas. But
so I was listening to the Kirby press conference, and he was talking. Somebody asked a question in the press conference. You couldn't hear the questions because they didn't have a microphone back there. He said something about, I believe he was talking about Drew Bobo had a laceration on his snapping hand, and they needed to suture it and then wrap it. But if they did that, he couldn't snap it, so he didn't go back in the game. So I'm guessing that's Drew Bobo he was talking about. I mean, unless it was a backup center, but I didn't hear the name. I don't remember Drew Bobo getting hurt. So I mean, I understand we started to sub guys in, so maybe I thought that's why he wasn't in the game. But do you remember Drew Bobo getting hurt?
No, but I do remember hearing something about that though, like that he had been removed from the game. It'll be interesting to see because like you're saying on his snapping hand, if they have to wrap it in such a way that he's not comfortable snapping, that would be a change because very few centers can snap with their offhand consistently in a shotgun situation. Now he may be able to do it under center, but it kind of, like you're saying, kind of throws you off to snap with your left hand all of a sudden at a shotgun and still be able to block. So that would be a big question going into the week if he felt uncomfortable with that hand to snap.
Well, and you would think that if it's a laceration in his hand, you would probably think it would be on the backside of his hand. That's typically where you would get it. And if it's on the inside of his hand, that could cause real problems. But if it's on the outside, I'm thinking they could just wrap it up normal and just let him go to town with it. But I don't know. Maybe that's just something that we have to kind of see over the week. Maybe it's much ado about nothing. But Peyton Woodring having a really good season again. And, I know I've mentioned it on here before, and I think you echoed the same thing. Georgia's just been really blessed with some really good kickers and punters over the years. So it's really great to have that. But let's not beat a dead horse. We're at 30 minutes right here, and we won't end it right away.
We'll do a quick glance around the league.
Yeah, that's what I
think that's a good, do like a 10 to 15 minute. Any games that you saw that you want to speak on, and then we'll kind of bounce it around. You can start us.
The first one that comes to mind is the BYU game, and you and I and Harrison talked about it a little bit on Wednesday about this is the the annual BYU is a fraud game.
Yep.
And I think that went exactly how we thought it was going to go.
I was amazed. I don't know. Obviously, AP poll doesn't mean as much with the college football playoff poll now. Did you see that they only fell from 7 to 12 after losing 29-7? I think that's always one of those things that the AP poll just puts so much stock into records sometimes, and it's a very tough balance, right? Like, do I think BYU should be punished for losing a game to a team that's only lost once and it's their first loss, compared to a team that maybe has like 2 or 3 earlier season losses? Probably not. I am in agreement that like the wins have to matter, but when BYU really hasn't beaten anybody of major significance, and then they kind of choke in the one big game, I would expect them to fall a little bit farther in the college football playoff poll. Probably to that like 15, 16, probably like behind a Georgia Tech team.
The other biggest takeaway, and this goes right back to our conversation on Wednesday, of why I don't understand why people get so worked up over the college football playoff rankings. And I told you, it takes care of itself. Virginia, gone. And then what's the other ACC team? Louisville, gone. Like, I mean, like that's why I don't understand why people get so worked up about this. It works itself out. Virginia was going to lose. They're not a good football team. Louisville was going to lose. They're not a great football team.
Well, like you're saying, both of the bubble teams this week in the college football playoff bracket lost, right? Virginia was the 11 seed. Memphis is the 12 seed. Memphis loses to Tulane on Friday night. Virginia loses to Wake Forest on Saturday night. So there will at least be 2 different bubble teams in this upcoming week. I think the hard thing going forward is for all these conferences and all these people that want you to consider auto bids is the fact that you're wanting me to consider auto bidding a Virginia or a Duke. Duke lost to UConn, and Duke very easily could still play in the ACC title game this year.
Yeah, auto bids are crap, and we saw that last year.
So,
and then I don't know which game you had circled, but there's one more game. Well, actually, I won't take that game because I know that you'll probably want to talk. Well, I don't know.
We'll talk about – so, obviously, we want to talk about Indiana Penn State.
Yes, sir.
Phenomenal game, an all-time classic. I mean, it's the kind of game for Kirk Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza. It's your Heisman moment, right? Like the game – it's been a weird game. You're on the road. It's hard to play. It was still a pretty big crowd at Penn State. And down 4 with no time left, you march the length of the field and you catch a touchdown basically as time is semi-expiring in the back of the end zone. And how he got that foot down, I don't know. How that defensive back didn't just carry him out of the end zone, I also don't know. But it's like, I've seen people on Twitter like wanting to kind of knock that game. I think the only knock for me on it would be Penn State or Indiana fans just need to understand, like, that's the same thing that happens in the SEC. When they see a close game in the SEC, I think everybody automatically is like, oh, this team's a fraud. Like, oh, Indiana's a fraud because they play a close game against Penn State. Like, I don't think that. I think that things can get away from you or sneak up on you suddenly, and all of a sudden you're in a dogfight you didn't expect to be in. I think Indiana maybe didn't take Penn State as seriously as they should have. And all of a sudden, they're looking up at the scoreboard like, oh, my God, we're down by 4. But they had a moment. They came together. They drive the field. They score. You keep your undefeated season alive. To me, it means more when you play some of those close games than I think people realize. Like, who got better this week? Indiana playing an absolute nail-biter in a game like that, or Ohio State that played Purdue and won by 34?
Yeah, that's a great point. And to your point, the catches that were made on that final drive, like where they got increasingly more incredible as the drive went along. It's like the first one, you're like, oh wow, that was an amazing catch, and then the next one was like, that was even better, and then that last one was just absolutely incredible. But I think the frustrating part for anybody who watched that game is that is the Penn State team that was supposed to be here all year. With the amount of NFL talent that's on that roster, I mean, the performance that they put out there shows you why James Franklin got fired. because that team has not played like that all year long, but they're capable of playing like that. They have the talent to play like that. Hell, they probably should have won that football game because they have a talent advantage across the board. They just don't have their quarterback in Drew Aller, and that's a big deal now. I mean, listen, let's not just gloss over that fact. Drew Aller not being there is a big, even though I don't think Drew Aller is as good as some people make him out to be. Still, he's a really good quarterback.
Well, let's look at, like you're saying. I mean, where's his backup that should be there? Bo Perpula at Missouri, he's out for the year now too. So like it is tough. Like you lose your coach, you lose your quarterback. It's a toss up every week at that point. Like it's not easy road. I do think it's hard if you're a Penn State fan to think about, does your head coach being there change that outcome at all? Does he have some confidence, some roll of the dice that maybe he is taking some chances in that game? I don't know. He didn't historically win a lot of top ranked matchups. Maybe he doesn't, but it does always make you wonder. The only other one that I called almost, Oregon at Iowa at night in the rain, cold, comes down to a last second field goal for Oregon to get it done. You just can't count Iowa out, man. They play defense at night at home. They're hard to play with. They can't score. I mean, they can't. They've scored 16, but they get you in a dogfight each and every week. I mean, they give you the best they got defensively. And Oregon got all they wanted. They got better this week because I'm sure they didn't expect to be in that tight of a game that late in that game. So,
I think it does raise some questions about Oregon a little bit. They only, they lost in the biggest game that they've had so far. They lost to Indiana, and then they struggle with Iowa, a team that they should have been able to handle. But I do think, to your point, being at night, cold, rainy, I think conditions are the great equalizer a lot of times, especially with an Oregon team that likes to really move the ball with pace. It's definitely going to slow you down. But speaking of a quarterback change and completely changing the complexion of a game, can we go over to the Plains or go over to Nashville?
I was going to tell you one more thing about Iowa,
all right, go ahead.
which is crazy. So Iowa, 18-16 was the Oregon score. 20-15 was the Indiana score for the Iowa. They lost by 5 to Indiana, 20-15. That is insane. Okay, we'll swap it over the Plains. That's just so crazy that Iowa, like, how he can't portal in a good enough offense. It's like they would be unbelievable if they had just any kind of offense at all. I think they'd be undefeated. If they could score 24 points a game, they'd be undefeated. That's insane. They would. They lost 13-16 to Iowa State, 20-15 to Indiana, and 18-16 to Oregon.
At some point, though, you just have to say that's just who that coach is, and I think that he doesn't. I just don't think that the attention to detail on offense is there. I just don't. I think offense is an afterthought in that program. It's just because it's been. I can't remember the last time Iowa had a high scoring offense. I'm sure they have. I don't remember it. But let's go over to Nashville.
Let's talk about Vandy.
Yeah. So, Diego Pavia to me is one of those guys that started out such a great story and somebody to root for, and now I'm kind of finding myself rooting against him. I don't know why that is. Vanderbilt, the lovable losers type deal. That allure has kind of gone away. But a guy that we know, Ashton Daniels, gets his first real opportunity to be the starting quarterback at Auburn. And I'll be damned if he doesn't have a hell of a game. First of all, 51-yard touchdown wiped out on a bullshit holding call. No, it's not bullshit. Like it was holding, but it had nothing to do with the play. Ashton passed for over 300 yards in that game. And Cam, the amazing wide receiver, Coleman, was just absolutely unbelievable. And that's the Auburn that Auburn is expected to see all year long. Granted, they lost the game. I got you. I noted. I got it. But they looked really freaking good, and they gave Vanderbilt everything they wanted and more.
Let me tell you what gets you fired as an offensive-minded head coach. Scoring 3 against Kentucky, right? And then the next game, Ashton Daniels comes out. He's 31 for 44 for 353 in the air, 2 touchdowns. He runs the ball 18 times for 89 yards for 2 touchdowns. Your 2 wide receivers, you're paying the big bucks to. Cam Coleman, big wide receiver out of high school, you paid him a lot of money. Eric Singleton, number 1 portal run or wide receiver in the country, paid him a lot of money. 10 catches for Coleman, 11 catches for Singleton, both of them over 100 yards, both of them a touchdown. That's the offense you paid for. You paid for that offense. Now, you just happen to play maybe the dual threat quarterback in Diego Pavia, the fun story. 25 for 33, 377, and 3 touchdowns. Ran the ball 18 times for 112 and a touchdown. So he had 4 touchdowns. He had almost 500 yards of offense by himself. Not the kind of night you would love to have if you're them.
Yeah, and like you say, when you have a guy who's supposed to be the offensive genius type coach, and then he's just adamant not switching quarterbacks when everybody's like, it just does not look good with this guy running the show. And, what is the point of bringing in a guy like Ashton Daniels if you're not going to even give him a chance to compete? And that, that was every word out of there was that he never had a chance to compete. Finally gets a chance to step out there and do his own thing, and he looked just absolutely amazing. Let's see. Is there any other games that stood out to you this weekend? Florida looked like dog water again.
I would say that one stood out to me only in the fact that Florida looked inept. I mean, that's as embarrassing of a loss as I think. After a game last weekend against us where they really, I thought, were in it a lot of the game. DJ Lagway did some good things. They ran the ball well. They played pretty good defense. To lose 38-7 against a team that you dominated for the better part of 25 years, I think that's one of those that Florida will definitely be looking for a big overhaul. I would say now. Other games that come to mind, maybe like obviously Alabama LSU. Yeah, LSU looked uninspired after their head coach got fired. I think we always talk about that head coach bump that can happen where your head coach gets parted ways with. Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator are a little bit more loosey-goosey and free at times. I mean, LSU didn't really do anything of note. In that game, I think they scored 9 points, kicked 3 field goals, lost 20-9. I mean, you got enough weapons at LSU. You should probably be scoring a couple touchdowns at some point in the game. So, I'm excited though. Week 12 is a heck of a week of upcoming games that we're going to get to talk about on Wednesday. Dogs play Texas at night in Athens. Oklahoma goes to Alabama in what could be a revenge game for Oklahoma ruining their college football playoff chances last year. Any other games that you know of off the top of your head? The only other one that I looked at that is interesting that I saw on Twitter, Kentucky plays Tennessee Tech this week. Tennessee Tech's undefeated on the season, going to Kentucky. That's just one of those weird games of like, that's not the team I want to play. Week 12 is the FCS team that's undefeated. Like, hey, coach, can we leave them off the schedule next year?
You talk about an embarrassing loss for Kentucky if that were to happen.
And I'm not saying it will, but that is definitely not the team I'm wanting rolling into town.
Well, listen, they can score in Texas, and Kentucky showed the ability not to score. So I don't, it may not be as far fetched as you think. No, but I am. I'm super excited Wednesday to talk about the Texas game. We won't give away any of that today. We definitely want you guys to come back. We've had some decent numbers on our shows recently. Thank you guys for tuning in. We love the interaction in our comments. So if you guys want to participate in the show, that'd be great. We love reading your comments and commenting on them. So again, thank you guys for showing up week in and week out. We'll be here Wednesday, 7:30. And we were going to just so happy about this game this weekend because I don't know that I could have handled another weekend where we just looked lethargic, so to speak. So Dogs win, big win. Another week to get ready for another really big football game at Sanford Stadium. I believe it's 7:15. Is that correct? 7:15 on Saturday.
7 or 7:30. It's a game for the playoffs, right? You win
Yeah.
this, you're in. Like there's no argument in my mind. Like even if you slip up against Georgia Tech, which God willing, I don't want to happen, but you beat Texas, you're in. And I think if you beat Texas, they're out, in my opinion, at this point in the season. So Arch Manning comes to town, first chance to kind of get to play him in a full game. You finish second in his recruitment, so always a fun chance to play somebody that thought that grass was greener somewhere else.
And then also the first real cold game of the year. It's gonna be.
I am pumped.
Are you?
Oh yeah,
You're
I
insane.
love it to be cold, dude. It's gonna be cold. Light up Sanford. It's the red out. In case anybody missed that from the Spike Squad, wear red, be loud, go crazy.
Go crazy. Anyway, thank you again for joining us this week. This has been Kobe Pierce, Dan Kiley, Top Dog Talk Podcast. We'll see you Wednesday, 7:30. I don't have the fancy music that Harrison has, so
Peace.